the GoBots, Matthew.
Let's try this one.
WGN. GoBots, because GoBots, I mean, if
Ripley?
you guys look at it, it was made probably by a 12-year-old who was
Ripley?
just messing around with Shrinky Dinks or something like that. And
Ripley, what is it?
Crayons up on the white
I
one.
believe GoBots.
Ripley.
I'm not sure if it was first or not, but that's what it kind of looked like. Like, it looked like.
But the GameCube, the memory cards were a lot smaller, and they were on the console itself.
They're
if I
right
remember
underneath
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, right by the little port where you plug it in.
It had two ports.
Yep.
Because you could plug 4 controllers in, and underneath the first 2 slots there was one, and underneath the second 2 slots there was one as well. So you could do 2 memory cards if you wanted to. I never had to do 2 memory cards, and it was like 128 megabytes. That's like what you could save.
If
on
even
your,
that, it might have been,
yeah.
it might have been kilobytes. 'Cause I always remember that like the video game storage media was like always way overpriced. You look at the price tag and you're like, well, that's, I could buy a bunch of floppy disks and
Floppy.
have more space.
Floppy
disk,
floppy
floppy
disk.
disk.
Well, yeah, and the GameCube was one of the first to support 4 controllers, but
Yep.
there really weren't too many games that supported it, other than like Super Smash Brothers was probably the first. That was GameCube, wasn't it?
Yep, Super Smash Brothers was GameCube, yeah. Yeah, that was it. And then you had one of my favorite all-time games, Monkey Balls.
Super Monkey Ball.
Super Monkey Balls.
What a great game.
That's a great. I mean,
that was
Monkey
another.
Bowling.
That was another.
Who didn't
one
want a
where you could
Monkey
have
Bowl?
several controllers, and it was
Yes.
worth the investment. But
That
that was
was
one
a-
I've noticed.
That was a
Guys
party
and
game.
girls would both get into. Most
Yeah.
video games were, I think, were kind of. It was a very male dominated.
Male,
market,
yeah.
And there just weren't a
But
lot
girls
of games
like-
that appealed to girl gamers. But Super Monkey Ball.
Super
anyone
Monkey
could
Ball's
pick that
dead.
one up, and it was easy to learn. Any age group could have fun with it. That one is definitely one of my faves.
Well, it is a good. You could play good drinking games with it as well, especially the bowling part. Like it was like that was
Monkey
just like
bowling.
it was just fun for. It was fun for everybody.
Well,
All
Nintendo
ages.
seems like a family party centric
Yeah.
kind of
Absolutely.
system.
You're right. No,
You
that's true.
But
And
they
it
were
still-
also kind
it
of
still
limited
is.
in that sense. They didn't
Yeah.
even try to appeal to like the.
They knew
older
what they had,
gamers or-
Yeah.
but they knew what. But at that time, they knew what they had. That was their demographic. I don't think they didn't really adapt later.
They didn't
on
want to mess with their
well.
formula.
Yeah, they didn't want to mess. I mean, I don't know how you can really blame them because it was so successful for so long. I mean, and then when they went to the Wii was like nothing like it. I mean, look what PlayStation tried to do right away instantly. They tried to get all their motion stuff
Yeah,
going.
everyone
right
tried
It
after
didn't
that.
work.
Everyone tried.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Everyone tried
the
copying
Wii,
it.
the Wii sold so many units. I mean, they hit a home run. They hit a home run with that, but that's where they lost it. They should have went to the next level with it. They should have. I mean, because they didn't care. They didn't care about graphics. I mean, Call of Duty on the Wii, it was fun
Oh.
because you actually got to do the stuff with it. Like when you're,
It looked awful.
It looked awful, and I mean, it wasn't practical.
Well, we skipped
at-
a couple systems here. Let's not forget about the. I think Jason, isn't your favorite? And my favorite is the Sega Dreamcast.
With that.
Dreamcast,
How can we pass that
that-
one up, man? And we didn't really get into it until Sega had completely tanked and they all went on clearance. We see them
Yes.
at Target for like 75% off or something ridiculous, and people
Yeah,
were storming
and the game.
the electronics department
Yeah.
like, what's going on? And there were a couple left, like 35 bucks. I'm grabbing one. Who cares? I'll grab
And
a
it-
couple games.
Well,
That was a cool
Well, that-
system. The controller was great. The games were good.
it had the first. The controller had a screen on it.
Yeah, the little memory
Well, like-
card. on the
like-
screen,
like,
you
yeah,
could take the memory card out. And
yeah.
play a little game on that.
Yeah.
Although those games
Yeah.
were just awful.
Well, the sports games that I like, the baseball games are like it did replays and stuff. When you hit a home run,
Oh,
you
on the
look
little
down at your
screen,
control. Yeah, it did that. Like I do not know why they didn't. What they did was they rushed it out and didn't have the games to support it. If they would have had at least 25 to 50 games ready to go with their launch, I think things would have turned out completely different from what they are, because that was a home run.
The hardware was good.
It was fantastic.
They actually had a modem. It was a 56K modem. It was dial-up, but it was it actually had a web browser. Built into the Dreamcast. So it was one of the first things you could actually use to even just like get on the internet. And play games online with other people. Which that wasn't a thing yet.
Nope.
There's a very few games that supported it. I remember there was like our friend Greg liked to play Phantasy Star Online, so it was like an online. It was kind of like the first like MMO RPG. So being online with several different people at the same time, that was kind of mind blowing. Even if you didn't like that type of game, it was kind of worth checking out just to see like, wow, I'm playing with these people from all over the world. Like that's such a cool thing, and that really opened up a lot of doors. Around the same time, there was also Nintendo was trying some new stuff like Virtual Boy. I remember I picked that up on Games. It was cool, very gimmicky. Give you a headache after playing it for a little while. You had to set it up just right. It was bulky. You had to set it on a table, and like you had to rest it just right to see into this thing. It didn't not like today's VR things that strap onto your head, because this thing weighs more. And so you'd get a neck ache from trying to like lean forward and see into this thing. Headache after about 20 minutes, but there definitely had that 3D effect. The graphics were all red. It was just solid. It was either red or black, so it was completely like a monochrome system. And the thing was just ridiculously overpriced. There was just a small handful of games, and I think because of like the physical difficulty in playing it, it wasn't really a big hit. It came out a little bit after Game Boy, which everyone loved. Game Boy had so many different iterations. There's a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance.
There's now. I mean,
there's the DS, the
3DS.
I can't even name how many different versions of their portable gaming, but they dominated that portable gaming market for so long until
PlayStation PlayStation finally gave up. They tried as hard as they could.
The Vita.
What did they have? The
Vista, the Vista or something like that.
Vista or Vita, I think it was.
Yeah, they kept trying. We're like, that's where Nintendo's like, we're good at this. We'll just throw money at Game Gear.
Game Gear, because that was Sega trying to again one up Nintendo, and here they had a color screen.
It was big, and it was bigger too.
It was like a cartridge I would put in, but it was a TV tuner. So it was actually like a portable TV. And, you could, they're like, oh yeah, they're always advertising and watch the game on it. I always had like a football game showing on this little TV attachment, and that I think was the biggest selling point to the Game Gear. But like that thing chewed through batteries super duper quick. The TV attachment was really expensive, but it was cool because it was in color. It was color portable gaming, and the games on it, like Sonic, it seemed to be the same game that you would play on the console. So that was kind of cool. But it was just too expensive, so not a lot of people.
Okay,
no.
Who made the what is it? Neo Geo.
Oh, that was.
Do you know that?
That was such a cool concept.
Who made it though? I can't. I'm trying to remember what company did that.
It might have been their own thing. We'll try to look it up, but
I mean, was it did they give it away? Did they give it away with like the Geo Metro car or something?
I don't know.
Well, this wasn't the Geo. This was the Neo Geo.
It might have been Panasonic. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
It might have been Panasonic's.
Games were so different back then because our arcades were kind of an established thing, and then suddenly there's the home consoles that start showing up, and kids they're not popping quarters in the arcade anymore.
No.
And this was one of that first things that tried I think it was like their attempt to make a console and make money in that home market, but also make money at the arcade. So they would have that arcade where you could bring your save game card and load your character or whatever at the arcade and play there and show off, whatever you've done, your progress, your high score, whatever it might be, that you've been playing all this time at home. And you'd see the arcades every once in a while. Maybe you'd see one in a Pizza Hut or an arcade, and then you'd see someone actually playing it, and you'd like, do they have their memory card in there? Like, and it's kind of cool to see. You're like, wow, someone actually bought that system. It's one of those like obscure systems like the Jaguar.
Yeah.
I just remembered the Power Glove.
Yeah, the glove.
The Power Glove.
Yeah, the Power Glove, and then you had the NES Advantage. Remember how big that was? It had the first turbo button on any system. I remember playing track and field with that, and I was like, yes. All I got to do was hit the button. Before, because you had to take the button and go like this.
The power pad.
Carpal tunnel, power pad.
Remember that? You'd run on it, but if you were playing the track and field thing, you could just get on your hands and knees and pound on the pad.
That was their way to get kids to exercise,
Yeah, right. That's a way to cheat. Bunch of cheaters. That's what was going on. Well, it was unfair when the other person had an NES Advantage, and you had the regular controller, and you're just looking at him like, I'm not coming over to play with you anymore. That's not fair. The button. Here I am. My thumbs are bleeding because I'm hitting A and B as fast as I can. Oh man, tangent. Sorry about that. Back to whatever system.
Well, there were some other obscure systems like Panasonic had the 3DO, and
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about how it's going to revolutionize games and stuff like that. It just sort of fell off the face of the earth. Well,
it was like $800 or something like that too. It was ridiculous.
It was so expensive, and it was a fine line of making it powerful enough to appeal to people, but not making it out of reach with
out of reach
cost.
Out of reach and no games with it.
And I think the other company that really saw that happen to them was when Sony did the PS3. It was like $600 when it first came out.
See, that was
kind of stunk, and that's when people started turning
to Xbox,
to Xbox 360.
Yeah,
which was their console at that time.
Well, see, that's the thing that Sony really they did an awesome job with PlayStation 1 and then the PlayStation 2, which was very different from the PlayStation 1. I remember when I played that, I was like, wow, this is like a supercomputer video game right here. Mm-hmm. And then they went, I think they just got, just like Nintendo or Sega Genesis, what happened to them, they're just like, oh, we're just going to slap Sony on it, slap a price on it, and these people are going to buy it. I think that's what happened. Yeah. But people are like, I'm not, like you said, I'm not paying $600 for this machine. And they're like, I'll go buy an Xbox 360 for $100 cheaper. Mm-hmm. And by that time, there wasn't the exclusive games really. They were on both systems. They weren't really exclusive that much anymore. Besides a couple titles, each system had their titles. But then people were like, screw it, I'm going to go to Xbox. Mm-hmm. And Xbox really. I think that's where they really took off then.
And the console wars began.
Yeah, exactly. That is. I think it
really did. It
really did.
At first, it was Sega and Nintendo battling it out for years, and then Nintendo seemed to come out on the top. But then suddenly, here comes Sony, and then suddenly Microsoft. And
Microsoft jumps in.
You guys make
computers.
That software, makes like boomboxes, Walkmans. Is starting to say we're going to make a game console, and then you got Microsoft we made Microsoft Windows.
We make Windows, yeah.
We're going to make a game console, and people are like, what?
What?
But the interesting thing about the Xbox is, aside from the fact that it was gigantic, it was heavy, it was kind of ugly looking. Like
it was,
a lot of dudes thought it looked
had
cool
a giant
because
X,
it was black,
which was awesome.
It had a big X shape, but the controllers, a lot of people didn't like because they were big and heavy. I have big hands. I did like their controllers, but I know it just didn't appeal to a lot of people.